Yo,
What up, yo?
there we go. Making magic happen.
Here we go, yo. Here we go, yo. So what's a scenario?
Oh, you went
Little
old school. Old
throwback
school.
for y'all.
Yeah,
I did go old school.
yeah. Yo, welcome to my summer layer. I guess Space Station Oddity 4, episode 4. I guess. Are we up to 4? Let's go with 4. My name is Sammy.
Yes. What's up, Sammy? My name is Stephanie. No, we gotta redo that. We gotta redo that. I had a whole thing I was gonna do. I had a whole thing I was gonna do because that's my job.
Okay.
That's my job.
You
It's my
want to
job.
do the introduction again?
So we have to start over. Okay, we're gonna. Yeah. Let's do the introduction again. Let's start over. Start over.
Yo, welcome to my summer layer. This is Space Station Oddity. I guess episode 4. My name is Sammy.
Mm-hmm. And I am the obsessive Linkin Park extraordinaire fan, Stephanie Cole. I'm staring at a picture of my note as we speak.
Oh, well, that was all right. That was a whole thing. I don't have anything like.
Well, it's not just a picture of him, it's a picture of him and me taken at the LAX airport
Mm-hmm.
2 years ago.
Oh yes, okay.
And I still love this photo.
All right. All right.
I mean, I'm so special.
You are special, and not only that, but our topics today are special as well. We got a few things we're gonna talk about, but let's start with You want to start with the TV show Clickbait, the miniseries on Netflix?
Sure.
So this was
Because you watched it after I did.
Yeah, so I mentioned it as part of like I set the VCR, and it looked interesting at the time. So for anybody that doesn't know, this came out on August 25, 2021. So it's not that long ago, maybe about a month or so. And basically, what happens is it's a classic American family, and the dad is a physiotherapist, and he gets kidnapped, and he appears in this viral video, and he's holding up these like signs, like the Bob Dylan Subterranean Blues video, and he says, one of the signs says, "I abuse women, and if the video gets to 5 million hits or views, I will be killed." And so now everyone starts to falling apart because it's like, does he abuse women? Is he cheating on his wife? What's the truth and what's a lie? And like, the kids, he has 2 kids and they don't know anything. The wife doesn't know anything. So the police are investigating it. And so everything starts to kind of like fall apart and start to unravel. So what was an ideal family turns out to be like there's a bit of a foundation of lies, is the best way to put it. So you stayed up and you did the thing where like you did the Netflix thing. We need a word for that. Where like you kind of kept rolling into like sunrise. Basically, you watched it all night.
It's like an ultra binge. It's like an
Mm-hmm.
ultra binge, I guess. I'm like something like that. Yeah, I mean, I turned it on because I was curious, same as you. I'm like, it seemed interesting enough, and I wasn't binging anything at the time, and so I'm like, I'll turn it on. I got nothing else to watch. And then it rolled into the next episode and the next episode, and it's not a lot of episodes. It's like what, five, eight, oh, 8 episodes. Oh
Eight.
no! I sat through 8 episodes. I wanted to feel better about myself, thinking it was originally thinking it was five. No, it was 8. I sat through all 8 episodes. I didn't go to bed till like 2 in the morning. I wanted to know what happened, and I was just like, I was so hooked because on who plays the main-ish protagonist, the
Mm-hmm.
sister of the guy, Adrian Grenier. And also Betty Gabriel, who plays Sophie Brewer,
The wife.
Oh my god. No, 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 not the. Yes, 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 yes. The wife. Sorry, I was
She's the wife.
thinking of
The
her for half a second. I was, yeah, she is. No, she is. And then for like half a second, I almost said like, no, she's the detective. But she was the detective in Finding Jacob, that one with Chris Evans
oh yes,
and
okay, yeah, yeah,
Michelle Dockery.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. She did one of the
she's
Purge
been a few
movies
other things. I
too.
really like her. Yes, 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 yes,
Was it
yes.
Forever Purge? I think
So,
it was. I can't remember.
and
But yeah, one of the Purge ones. She's
I
been
don't
around.
remember.
Hmm.
Yeah. And so I just ended up binging. I couldn't stop. Oh, she was also, by the way, she was also in the very first thing I remember seeing her in. She was in Get Out. She was one of the townsfolk. She like the only the like the she was the maid or something. This
Oh
town.
yeah,
You remember Get
yeah,
Out?
yeah, yeah. That's right.
She
Yeah.
was and she was the one who was like she was the one who cracked
Hmm.
for a minute.
Right.
Um,
She's got a
so I loved
weird
her. I loved her. It was like so
she's got a
memorable.
weird face in that like she can play older or she can play younger. Like in Get Out, she was a little bit older it seemed,
Hmm.
and then in like Clickbait, she seemed like
Yeah.
a younger, hipper wife with the kids and everything. You know what I mean? Like she's one of those
Yeah.
actresses where
I know
you
exactly what you're talking about.
like you can't quite tell like are you 20 or 40 or what's happening here.
Yeah. So, anyways, but yeah, I ended up watching the entire thing in one sitting, just the entire thing. I needed to know where it was going to go. I needed to know it was going to go because it was, it's you quickly find out that it's not even a matter of, you know, what he did or how he did it or if he did it, but who's doing it to him.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, who's the real villain of the story? That's what you don't know. It's like, who, and is he the villain? Does he deserve what's happening to him? Is the villain the person who's doing it to him? It's like, who's the bad guy here? So
And we lived through some of this, right? Following the Boston bombing, people were all on Reddit and like looking through like camera footage and cell phone footage and stuff and trying to figure out who the
mhm,
bombers were, and you could see how like certain
mhm,
biases and things like that from untrained professionals were like kind of getting in the way.
mhm,
They're like, that brown guy looks
mhm.
suspicious, and I'm like, he could have just been there waiting for a friend or a wife or somebody was running and it turned out like a lot of everybody was wrong
Well,
on a lot of the guesses they had.
mhm. Oh yeah, that most of them are wrong. I'm like, it's amateur hour. I'm like, you know how it is. It's
Mm-hmm.
like they're gonna insert their own biases into it anyways. So but what was I about to say? What was I about to say in regards to it? You were talking about that. I was like, I literally had a moment. I was had a thought and I lost it. But anyways, it's the kind of, I don't see this as often anymore, but it was a really good who done it sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And what it means in the end, as like I said, who really is the bad guy? It's like, I had pulled it up, earlier, just to kind of, because I'd watched it a few weeks ago, so I wanted to refresh myself because ADHD brain is garbage. I never remember anything. So I wanted to refresh myself on some of the stuff that happened, remind myself of certain things. And one of the things that popped up as like a side list was The Haunting of Hill House. Randomly, it pops up as like a side thing on IMDb. And I remember looking at that and thinking it's kind of the same thing, because I don't know if you watched that last year or not, but actually both of them, it was the Haunting of Blythe Manor and then the Haunting of Hill House, or maybe it wasn't the Haunting of Blythe Manor, but anyways, they're like similar. They're from the same story. They're from the same series, but
Mm-hmm.
anyways, it's like you get these haunted houses and all these bad things are happening, but at the end you're like, okay, but who really is, like, in those sorts of situations in scary movies and stuff, obviously the villain, the antagonist is, the ghost that's doing the haunting or the psycho killer or any of that kind of stuff. But in these sorts of things, in these, I remember watching and going, okay, but who really is the antagonist? Who's supposed to be the antagonist? And are the ghosts that are doing the haunting, are they really the antagonist, or are they misunderstood, or whatever it is? And waiting to get to the end to find out what it really is all about, where it's just like it's layered on top of each other. It's like there really is no protagonist or antagonist at the end of it. And it's like, and just sitting around finding out, trying to get those answers, you don't see enough of that anymore. And that was definitely something like that. I don't know how much I want to say, because I don't know if I'm like, as like, are we talking to people who are seen it and we're gonna spoil them, or
Yeah,
so
it's a hard thing because
I don't
it's
really know what else
like,
to say.
yeah,
Mhm.
the other thing too that you don't see too often is Zoe Kazan's haircut. Did you like that? I found that really distracting. I couldn't figure out if that was a wig or her real hair.
No, I no, I think it was a wig. That was a wig. That was absolutely a wig.
All right.
I mean, we had a conversation about it. That's a wig.
And so the other thing
I
too,
mean, some of it, like, it might not all have been, but like, because like there are some shots where it doesn't look like a wig, and some where it does.
hmm
Um,
it was
so
really
there might
distracting hair.
be. I think it was supposed to be. She was rebelling, and you know how it is. I'm like, you fry your hair, and it's. I mean, I knew girls in high school who fried their hair so badly, and it looked bad enough to be a bad wig.
hmm
So, but she's just edgy, and edgy means fried blonde hair.
All right, that should be a T-shirt. So then, explain something to me. Like, I want to circle back to what I was saying about like what we saw with like Reddit and how like all these like social like commentaries happen. So when these kind of events happen, where like a mom will kill like her daughter or something like this, and it ends up an Inside Edition and all these kind of things. Monica Lewinsky is another one, right, where everyone has this like strong opinion on something, on like the position or whatever she did or she didn't do. um, like so, because this is related to clickbait, right? We're like, okay, let's go with
Hmm.
Monica Lewinsky for obvious example, right? Like, so if you choose to believe that Monica Lewinsky is a whore, right, and you post it online, and if you had her number, you could like text her and you would call her a whore and like shame on her, and like, are those people like under the impression like that they're doing something good or they're standing up for family values? Or, like, I just can't wrap my head around that. Like, you know what I mean?
It's people want to vent. People want to yell when they're mad at something. They want to yell, and they've got. And the problem is like it's like it's like if I think that and I thought badly of her, it's not like I can turn around and yell at you and chastise you. You're not Monica. You didn't do it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a combination of it's like you just feel like you just have this overwhelming need to like reprimand somebody. It's like you feel superior because you would never do that, reprimand them for being a bad person. And you couple that with the fact that you're in your mind you're anonymous. You no one's they're not even if you do have her phone number, or her, or you can or this, if Twitter was around back then and you could harass her on Twitter. It's like you really don't you really aren't subjecting yourself to any consequences of what will happen if you were to say that to their face. Because it's like so many people online do just the craziest stuff, and
Because we saw that in
don't
clickbait,
don't
right?
don't
As
think
the
that they're
secrets
gonna
kind of
be.
came out,
Yeah,
right, where people were like,
yeah.
she like one of the characters was like, she's a whore, and I'm like, I don't really know what you just accomplished here.
Because it just makes them feel better, it makes them feel superior. It's the bully syndrome.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, but where they always say that like bullies actually are jealous or feel inferior, and it makes them feel superior. If they can be superior over someone, they want to take it because they're bullied themselves or whatever it is. It's just mean begets mean. That's really all it is in the end. I was it reminds me of this, but it's like, but also when it comes to this kind of stuff, when you're yelling at somebody you don't know and you don't know the circumstances, and at the end of the day, Monica Lewinsky 100% across the board is not a whore. Monica Lewinsky was taken advantage of at the age of 22 by the president of the United States. So she's the literal opposite of that. It's like that's not anything that we pin on her. But the thing is, if people want to feel superior, they want to blame her because they don't want to blame him.
Mm-hmm.
Especially pre-Me Too movement, when there was a lot less discussion about the continuing using her as an example, the power that men have, that women think that they can't say anything or can't do anything because of the repercussions on them. It's like, you want to feel superior because, one, it's a dude, it's a white dude, and it's the president of the United States, so he can't be doing something wrong.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, it's just boys being boys, but you want to blame somebody, so you're going to blame her. And if it makes you feel better by yelling at her, but you don't know her and she's not in front of you to do it, so you go, or but it's the sense of feeling like you're yelling into the void. You spoke your piece, and you don't have to worry about what they think of you, because they're never going to see it, or even if they do, you're just a blip on the radar. So there's no real consequences for you, and it's like in clickbait. I was thinking about this the whole time, because I think it was, I don't know if it was the police. Somebody had said early on, they're like, to the family, they're like, "Are you watching it?" And they're like, "Yeah." And maybe it was even a sister who said, was like, "You realize every time you watch it, you're adding to the number."
Mm-hmm. And again, the magic
Everybody's like,
number
"Oh
was
God,
5
stop!"
million
And
views,
and that was,
and he dies.
yeah, and that's the thing, is exactly, and that's the thing. It's like, people don't the real world consequences to social media.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, it's like, I want to see the video. It has nothing to do with the fact that if I watch this video, I am now one of that 5 million.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't tell, I'm just one person. I'm not really making a difference. Like, no, you were now one. You're one view. There was this. I tried for so long to find this commercial, and I can't. But there was a commercial I saw. I think it was like back in the '80s, and it was on MTV. It was during an election year, probably I don't remember which one it was. I was a kid. I was a little kid, but I remember, and it really stuck with me. It was a black void, and there was one person standing in the middle of the screen, and he said, "I'm just one person. What difference can I make?" And then somebody else walks onto the screen, and what difference can I make? And then another person, until the screen is like a sea of people all saying, "I'm just one person. What difference can I make?"
Mm-hmm.
It only takes one to add to one to add to one, and that's, people don't think about those consequences. They don't, they look at somebody who's being bullied online, and they made one comment, but they only made one comment.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like, they think that their one comment is inconsequential. I'm like, no, but you added to it. You added to it, which means that somebody, it's like, if you didn't add to it, and the next person did, and the next person did, and eventually it wasn't added to, but you did add to it no matter what.
And we
And
saw
that's what
that
was
in
driving me
clickbait
crazy the whole
too,
time watching. I
where
was
a
like, are
narrative
people
starts
thinking
to
about the
form.
fact that every time they, yeah,
Right?
exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So, mm, but that was the only thing that I found completely not believable, was how long it took him to get to 5 million.
Yeah. Well,
I
that
was like,
was
it was all over the news. I'm like, they would have gotten 5 million in about 2 hours.
right. Well, and that's the other thing too, with kind of like the little slight dig, especially in the first couple episodes of Clickbait, was the idea that, like, if you watch this video and it gets to 5 million views, this guy will die. But it's also like the internet, because it tracks everything that you do, it's eliminated the guilty pleasure, right? Before, in the 80s and the 90s,
Yeah.
you could watch like certain TV shows or certain movies or whatever, as kind of guilty pleasures. And yeah, obviously, like, there was like, if you went to the box office, you paid money and whatever. Like, I get it. There was little ways to track you, but for the most part, if you didn't tell anybody, there was really no one to know. Like, you weren't feeding the algorithm, right? So you were kind of off the grid in terms of
Yeah.
what you could or could not enjoy. You liked certain music, maybe you left it on the radio. Radio doesn't know what you're listening to, right? So if you sing along to like Backstreet Boys or
Hmm.
NSYNC, the radio doesn't judge you, right? And the radio doesn't have any way to know
Yeah.
what you enjoyed. And so, but with clickbait, it's kind of like, it's kind of gone full circle in terms of like, there is no more guilty pleasure now. Everything is just either like, I guess, pleasure, or just kind of like, just where we're just blindly following the herd.
Well, actually, you could almost look at it as like, you know what? Guilty pleasure now literally is guilty pleasure. You are guilty, and everyone knows it.
Oh, there you go.
It's that kind of guilt. It's a different kind of guilt now. It's like, before it was just internal guilty pleasure, it was your own personal guilt. And now it's like, oh, you're guilty. Everybody knows. Everybody knows your search history. And it's funny, actually. Like, my roommate is convinced that the computers are listening. I have an Alexa here, and he's convinced that it's listening because he will say something. He says something, and then all of a sudden he'll see something about it pop up on a news feed.
Mm-hmm.
And it just happened today in regards to a comment. He and I are binging Star Trek Explorer because I never saw it,
Mm-hmm.
and there happened in one particular episode that all of a sudden a meme, like it was like a few days ago, and then a meme popped up on his Instagram today that was literally what I was talking about, literal meme to what I was talking about. And he's just like laughing his ass off in the living room. He comes into my office and he's like, look at this, and he's just talking about this 2 days ago. They're listening, and I'm like, and part of me sometimes is like, okay, this happens a little too often. I'm like, I can click on stuff, it's clickbait, like, but is Alexa really listening when she says she's not? Is Siri really listening to me? Because it seems a little too on the nose
Yeah. There's no
sometimes. It's
such thing as
like
coincidences.
there's no more hiding.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, the one thing that I think that clickbait didn't touch on that would have been something really good to touch on, even if it was just a little bit. They didn't touch on what happened after the guy turned up dead. What to every single person who watched it before that happened, before it hit 5 million,
Mm-hmm.
watched it on the original website, and it wasn't on YouTube. It was on some it was like a Russian redirect or something
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that. Like somebody used a VPN to redirect it from a Russian site
So it couldn't
so
be
that they
taken
couldn't get
down.
it taken down.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, I mean, if I had been one of the people who watch it and I had watched it in the sense of like, oh my God, I want to see this video. I want to see what they're talking about. And I watch it and I contribute to the numbers. And then I find out the guy turns up dead. I know that I contributed to that number. And what does that say about the social justifications, not justifications, the social ramifications,
Ramifications.
the
Yeah.
social ramifications of now this guy's dead because of you.
Yeah. Well,
Like
that's
it's not ephemeral anymore. It's like you're responsible for this.
yeah, and that's why I
How
was.
do you justify that?
That's why I was bringing up the Monica Lewinsky example, right? Because we could at least talk about that, and not necessarily talk about everything that's in clickbait. But it's like
Yeah.
you're not standing up for like you're not a good person. I guess basically is the way to look at it, right? Which is what you were saying before. Like who are the good people in this, and who
Mm-hmm.
are the nasty people in this? And I'm like, yeah, the same thing. If you contributed
Mm-hmm.
to this, but it's a weird thing because it's like you don't necessarily know what it is that you're always going to be clicking on, right? Sometimes these things can be memes. Sometimes it
Yeah.
can be like a punked video where it's some sort of like closed camera circuit thing, whatever, where they're just like doing a trick. Like you don't fully know how what it is that you've watched. You don't know what's real or not. That's still sometimes an issue with the internet, and like FBI is continually investigating those the Nigerian prince left you $1 million scams, right? Like people still fall for that. I'm like, who's signing up for that? But that sometimes I think too what makes it difficult is like because nothing ever seems like it's totally real on the internet. That like I think you do just get to walk away without any consequences because it like you're on to the next video. Look at this cat playing like keyboard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. It's just it's just scrolling. At the end of the day, it's just scrolling. It counts, but it's scrolling. It's like working in social media myself, work especially on paid advertising, on videos, you know, we start tracking how much of the video is seen from the first 3 seconds. Do you
Mm-hmm.
make it past the first 3 seconds? Do you make it past the first five, first 15? Do you make it to a minute? It's like, and all of that stuff matters, because that tells you from the get-go like how much of your video works from the minute somebody sees it. Is it working at all? And it just goes from there. So it's like I'm like, I know. It's like I put that video up, I put a video up, I pay to boost it. I know how much of it you saw. I
Mm-hmm.
know how important it is. And you might think that you pause for 15 seconds to watch something, but I know you pause. I may not know you specifically, Sammy, pause to watch that 15 seconds, but you're counted. You were counted. You were one of the people that watched it. You were counted towards that number.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I was like, you're not separated from it anymore. Um, like you said, it's not like I can, you know, a good example is the original trending video, Spirit of Christmas, South Park.
Oh
Before
yeah.
South Park was South Park,
Mm-hmm.
they had made the Spirit of Christmas, and it was on a VHS. That was like back in the days of VHS. And so literally, I mean, it was a trending video, but it got passed around. So I mean, there's a term for that in social media. It's called dark social. Like what happens outside of social media that can't be tracked. So like if somebody actually downloaded a video and put it on a hard drive and handed it to another friend, you could call that dark social. Like I can't, we have to take those numbers into account, that kind of stuff, using
Mm-hmm.
as an example. But that video, you someone could, a friend could have it and he passes it to me and I pass it to somebody else, and that entire line of people, none of us are counted for. None of us were,
Mm-hmm.
because we watched it in a sandbox, on a VHS tape, in a VCR, not connected to an internet, on an old school TV. I was like, that we were sandboxed back then, and that no longer applies.
Mm-hmm.
Anything you do online, it matters. Even if you think that you're just scrolling through Instagram, you're just scrolling through TikTok, you're just scrolling through Facebook, you're just scrolling through YouTube. I was like, you're not just scrolling. There is somebody on the other end of that is tracking you and how you are connected to it. That doesn't necessarily mean that your information is personally coming up as that. If you see an ad on Facebook, we've got all your information. You really don't have all your information. um but it's a little unnerving to think of that, and that's why that's part of the reason I actually really liked the movie, because I'm like, especially looking at it from my point of view, I'm on the other side of that. I'm on the tracking side of it. Every single day I'm on the tracking side of it. I'm looking at those sorts of numbers, and so point of view, just watching these numbers tick up and knowing what that means
Mm-hmm.
in regards to why that matters. And I thought, and I remember thinking when I was watching it, aside from the storyline, I remember thinking, I was like, this is basically the kind of void, the vague version of what I I do with it. You're just never telling me how well. This is like, let's take that concept of, when is it when is something considered that matters to it?
Can you say that again? Sorry, you were
So
breaking up.
if
Say that again.
get a video trending. Oh, that's okay. No, what I said was like, if we are, it's if we're trying to get a video to trend, or a company's trying to get a video to trend, they want it to trend, and like, so there's consequences for that. It's somebody's job could be a consequence of that. It's like, you need to be doing well in this job, like as the social media director, and like this whole campaign you rolled out needs to do well, so the numbers matter.
Mm-hmm.
But this is literally taking that concept of, these numbers that matter and what it means, like going down that chain on the other end of it, like the business side of it, like what I do, but it's taking it and making it extremely literal, the literal consequence of it, going, okay, this person's going to die if you watch it. And there is that morbid fascination, that morbid curiosity that people have of, oh my God, will it actually happen? And they're so detached from it because they don't know this person, they don't know who he is, they don't know what it means. um and they really don't
But
know if
well,
it's
not
actually
only
going to
that, but
happen. And
there's also,
you
because
know
he was holding up signs that says "I abuse women" and another sign that said "I killed a woman."
uh-huh.
So you also have that one group of
Hmm.
people who have either been mistreated by men or whatever it may be, and have that kind of agenda. And so they're like, they're actively rooting for him to get killed, right? As like a kind of like
Yeah.
a victory, basically, for whatever incidences they've had in their life, or whatever hurt they've had in their life. You know what I mean? Like,
Hmm.
so it's like they can't necessarily always like deal with their situations, but like you said before, they can kind of project it onto him, and all the hurt and all the pain and all the negative
Hmm.
experiences, and vent it out through that way.
Hmm.
So you do have like one group of people who are like, is this really gonna happen? And there's another group that are like, I hope it happens. He deserves it. He's earned it. Which is also weird too, because
You
it's
know,
like you the first time you ever meet this person is through this video, and he's holding up a sign that says, I abuse women. Like, and that's all you have to go on. You don't know anything else about them, or you don't know which women or how many women. There's nothing else to like give you a sense of who he
hmm
is. So just to be able to sum up and be able to like willingly destroy a person's life based on like one sign like that, that's really cold
hmm
and calculating.
hmm hmm No, that's true. Um, and it's like you said, it's like you don't know what that means.
Hmm.
And the thing is like, what is what is and this is not excusing abuse, obviously.
No,
There
no,
is
for
no
sure. Yeah,
excuse for
yeah.
abuse. Abuse is a very broad term and it should be.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but what one person might consider abuse, somebody else may not. And not in the sense of like the person who doesn't think it's abuse is an evil, bad person, but it's like, they just their reaction to certain things like, what does that mean? It's like when you say he abused, what are you talking about? Does he beat women? Is he mean to them?
Mm-hmm.
Is he distant and cold, and you're taking it as emotional abuse when he might just be, somewhat of a sociopath. He just doesn't express emotion very well. It's like there's all kinds of little nuances that can play into things that you don't know. Like you know none of it. All you know is he abuses women. You don't know who wrote it. You don't know why they wrote it.
Yeah.
You don't know what they're talking about. And so you get to the, and it wasn't, and it's unbelievably vague. And it wasn't until the next sign went up, when we put the other video up that said, I killed a woman, then it's different. You're like, oh, okay, well, this person murdered somebody, and but you believe it outright, you
Mm-hmm.
know? So, it's like, and that honestly is the court of public opinion. They're going to believe it. They're going to believe it before. And, here's the thing, of those two signs, the court of public opinion, when he says I abuse women, should always come down on the side of the victim. Because, again, you don't know, um, as much as people want to expound that, women are just women will report abuse for attention, they'll report it for the fame, they'll report it because they want to get back at somebody. That's so, I mean, we're talking like 0.0001% rarity, because that usually what you think they're trying to accomplish, the opposite is usually what happens. um
But isn't he also the
and
victim
then
in this too?
but on the other side, well,
He
I'm
was in a
getting there. But in
video
the
where he was.
second, but the second sign is when it's like, okay, that's different. That's when you're like, okay, but but where's the body? Like, where's the weapon? Where's it's
Mm-hmm.
it's like the first one. It's like, yeah, I'm if if he's abused a woman, I am going to side with the woman, just across the board. I'm just going to do that until I am literally proven otherwise. Like the other sign is much more literal than the first one is. It's like if she says she's abused, I'm going to believe her. If if someone said she killed a woman, go, okay, now you need to prove that. You need to prove that hard. You need to prove to me that he killed a woman. How did he kill her? It's different. That's why, as far as being convicted for crimes, I'm like, being convicted for murder, like what the requirements are to for a jury to convict somebody are so much bigger than what they are for most anything else. Um,
And that's why we have due
so,
process,
but at the
which.
same time, but you're right. Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. But I was, you're asking if he's a victim. I'm like, yeah, I'm not saying that he's not.
Yeah.
But he's a victim of what is happening to him in that particular circumstance. If he's abused women, I'm like, yeah, if he's abused women enough that there needs to be, you know, there needs to be some form of a punishment for it, whatever it is. That's fine. But what's happening here, that's vigilante justice. That's not up for them to decide.
Correct.
If he did, and also like if he did kill somebody, it's also not up for you to, you're not judge, jury, and executioner.
Mm-hmm.
you know um
That's why we have laws.
and putting it basically in, exactly, and then turning around and putting it in the hands of the public, that's that is such an unbelievable coward's way out, because that's you saying, I'm not doing this,
Mm-hmm.
they're doing it. If it hits 5 million, it's like, and you could go, hey, there's, just because I post it doesn't mean it's going to go viral. Of course it's going to go viral.
Yeah, of course it is. Yeah.
So you can be like, lots of things don't go, most things don't go viral. So if it goes viral and it hits the number, I have to do what it says. It's not, it's like you've basically just like washed your hands of the guilt of it. You can now separate yourself from that. And it's not, you're no longer in your own head. You can no longer feel responsible. It's the same thing I was talking about earlier with people who are like, well, I'm only one of 5 million.
Mm-hmm.
So, or if you watched it 5 times, I'm only five of 5 million. And people will use that to logic their way out of guilt over what happened. They're like, I'm only a few. Like it was only a few. Like I didn't really make that big of a difference. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
no, but you made a difference because you know what? You're part of the 5 million.
Yeah.
You watched it.
I only
You
called
watched
Monica
it
Lewinsky a
knowing
whore once.
that exactly,
Yeah.
exactly, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I don't, it's, it's actually, it's, when I made the comment earlier about it being this movie being like the literal translation of what it means to be you clicking on something is counted for
Mm-hmm.
in no matter what you click on where it's counted towards something somewhere. um it made and this was the literal real world consequence. It's funny because there's a show, I don't know if you've heard of, have you heard of The Circle?
Yeah, yeah. Netflix.
Okay,
It's
yeah,
another Netflix show. I've
I
never
watch
watched
it,
it, but
it's
I
fun.
know it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's fun. But one of the things that, so basically, for anybody who hasn't watched it, it's basically they turns it's social media meets Big Brother, but kind of not. So it's a bunch of people are in an apartment building, but they're all in individual apartments, and there's this social networking platform between the apartments. It's called The Circle, and you create a platform on it, and you can either play the game as yourself, or you can play the game as a catfish. You can pretend to be someone else.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they did something this season where somebody who'd come in as themselves. And there are sometimes where even if you get eliminated, you can come back. Like they might allow you to come back as a catfish. Doesn't like happens maybe once a season. You can pretend to now be somebody else, and so you're still in the game, and no one knows that because there's no way to verify who anybody is.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they did this thing this season where so this woman came in, this older woman, she's in her 50s. She came in as herself, and like the first day, these other two girls, these sisters who were actually kind of half catfishing because they were both pretending to be one of the sisters, like together. They were,
Mm-hmm.
so they got eliminated. They were the first ones to get eliminated, and then the circle's like, no, we're going to give you a second chance, but you have to go in as a clone of somebody who's already in the circle, and you get to choose who that is. And so they chose to go in as a clone of this woman, and they had 24 hours to become as popular as possible within the circle, because at the end the circle was going to vote which of the two, the woman's name is Michelle, which of the two Michelles was the real Michelle, because they didn't know. There's no way to know because they literally duplicated everything, and then the girls pretended like they were the Michelle that had been there all along. That was the whole thing. And so it was a day of the real Michelle trying to prove that she is who she says she is against these two girls who are trying to prove that they are her.
Oh.
And in it, yeah, and nobody knew who was the real Michelle. And the craziest part is they get to the end of it and they vote, and every voted which one to block, which one they think is the fake Michelle and which one they want to get rid of. Every single person across the board blocked the real Michelle.
Mm-hmm.
She couldn't prove that she was who she said she was. And I'm like, and I'm like, these are real world consequences. When you look at it in the terms of like, you, this, you, we live in a world where it's like, I am who I say I am, and then people are like, no, it's like, some famous person was like, no, it's your PR team who's doing this for you. You're like, no, but it's really me. And there's no way to really verify it on the other end. And I've seen it. Like I've worked on celebrities, I've worked on people's social media accounts, and it's trying to find that balance of being able to, and while at least still having some modicum of privacy, but at the same time, having to back yourself up and prove that you are what you say you are. You prove, you're trying to get that, you know like not letting other people dictate who you are, because that's really what's going on, not dictate your life.
Mm-hmm.
In Clickbait, they literally, the court of public opinion literally dictated his life.
But
It's not a situation where OJ had a trial and actual jurors. If they
right.
didn't, he would have been convicted before the trial began.
But this is,
But this time it's like, no, there's real world consequences.
but with clickbait, what was interesting was, yeah. So the dude is holding up a sign that says "I abuse women," and the next sign says "I killed a woman." And so obviously, yeah,
Yeah.
the court of public opinion, who doesn't know who this guy is at all, but like I said, like we said before, we've
Mm-hmm.
established, abused women, killed a woman. That's already like majority of people are like, yeah, he's guilty, kill him, whatever happens to him happens. But what was interesting also in
Yeah.
clickbait was then the tension that existed within his family, because Pia, the sister, Zoe Kazan, she was like, no man, I know my brother. I know my brother. He's not like this. He doesn't abuse women. He doesn't hurt women. Like something's wrong. Whereas the wife was kind of
Yeah.
like torn. Like maybe she doesn't know this man after all. Maybe like he still does have secrets, and we've seen that like where like some like a serial killer is
Mm-hmm.
married to a wife or something, goes out does some killing, and he comes home is like had a hard day at the office or something, right? Like it's possible
Yeah.
to be married to somebody and still not quite know them. And so within the
Yeah.
family, as they see those signs and as they deal with it, it's not just the court of public opinion. They know who Nick is. That's the main character. They know who he is, and so they're trying to grapple and figure out, is this true? Is this not true? Or like, was I lied to? Because you don't want also that feeling of being like lied to, and like we've seen this like with serial killer documentaries where it turned out like, by the way, your coworker is like the son of Sam. Have a good day. I'm like, what? Like you feel like an idiot.
Yeah. So at the end, it's like, okay, so you it's like that's almost like the real world version of what we're talking about, how it's, you really don't know.
Mm-hmm.
You really don't know the person sitting next to you, unless the person sitting next to you happens to be your spouse, but even then
There are
you really
secrets.
don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's just it's like, but and then at the end it's like these people who get arrested and convicted of a crime they didn't commit. The woman on The Circle, it's like, a crime she didn't commit. She's not catfishing, she's trying to prove she is who she is. These people who get arrested for crimes they didn't commit, they have to prove, they're like, but I didn't do it, I wasn't there, I wasn't even in the same city. It's like, and they get convicted anyways, and people end up on death row that never committed a crime. People are
Mm-hmm.
in jail for 40 years for a crime they never committed. And it's like, it's just a but at the same time it's like we're so subjected to, like you said, I was like, you don't know who's sitting next to you. You don't know that this person who's so mild mannered and normal, like, yeah, there are serial killers out there who had whole families,
Mm-hmm.
you know and you don't know. It's like that website Ashley Madison, the whole point of it was so that people could cheat on their significant others, and it's this whole world that they could build for themselves, and you don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the point of it. And so, and at the end, or at the end, you're being accused of something that you didn't do. It's like, how do you disprove any of that? How do you how do you prove that you didn't do something or did do something, especially when like you said, it's like there's secrets, and there's secrets, and there's been secrets in the past, and it's like, I don't care what anybody says. If you kept a secret big enough from somebody, I don't care how long you were with somebody after that, there will always be on some level something that you can do that will immediately make them think you did, like you're something that you could do that gives the impression that you might be doing something else, where you're going to believe that they're doing something else.
Once you've lost trust,
you
it's
know
hard to regain it back, right? Like if you're in a married
I
couple,
don't, but that's just it.
like if
But
you're in a,
that's what I'm saying. I'm like, I don't think you can.
but people who do, like, this is a tangent, but like I'm assuming, I don't know anybody, but I'm assuming that people like who are in a married couple or marriage situation and they've had one person who strayed from the marriage and they had an affair and they cheated,
Hmm.
there are still people who have somehow managed to stay together. I don't know how they do it, right? And I don't know how you like
Oh, I
can trust that person, like, because then like a year or 2 years after, they're like, yo, I gotta work late at the office. Like, really?
there's a couple within my, you know, family,
Mm-hmm.
like my overarching family, trying to be as vague as possible. So, I don't, drop names of anybody on, on this, but who I think it was within like, like 20 years into the marriage, the guy cheated and was caught and even was kicked out. And I think I think that's how far into the marriage it was. And then they ended up working it out and he moved back and they've now been together over 50 years. So it was over 30 years. So it's just more time has passed than how long they were married when this
Mm-hmm.
happened. Um, but I have seen there are little things, and maybe, at their age now, does not necessarily mean that, he can do something that would make her,
Working late
I
at the
don't think there really
office.
is anything anymore that, yeah, like obviously that or anything really. I'm like, not, not at that point where she's gonna think that he's cheating, but there's still things to this that I have seen even to this day where I know that her issue with something, her trust issue with something, really is originally connected to that big lie.
Mm-hmm.
So, and as like I said, they've been together longer now past than how long they were married when this happened. And then even to this day, things can happen, and and vice versa, because like people who cheat tend to also stop trusting their own partner because they they'll start think like they'll see things, their partner will do something that's completely innocuous, but it's something that they did, that was something they were doing when they were cheating to kind of get away with it.
Mm-hmm.
And and they stop trusting their partner because they're like, I was doing that same thing to get away with cheating, and I see you doing this thing and it can have nothing to do with anything. Something like um something as simple as saying, "Oh, I'm gonna go out and grab some drinks with some friends," and then you end up, you guys go to dinner and maybe say like, "Oh, we went to dinner." Maybe it's like a bunch of you say, "Oh, we went to dinner afterwards," but really maybe only two, you and another girlfriend or you and another friend went to get dinner, and he used to maybe do the thing where it was like, "Oh, we're all going to go get drinks," and then he would be like, "Oh yeah, we just went to grab dinner and it was really just him and her who were grabbing dinner," but he was trying to play it off like it was a coworker thing, like that sort of thing. And it really was just, her going to get something. I'm making this up, by the way. This is not a scenario that I know of, but her really going out for drinks with some friends and the two of them decided to go get dinner. And he's like, "Oh, yeah," because that was the thing that he did. It's completely innocuous. She went to get dinner with a friend afterwards,
Mm-hmm.
but now she's got to prove herself because he literally used the guise of going out to get drinks with friends as a way to be able to turn that into going out to get dinner with her. It's that sort of thing, but it's like it lasts forever. So it's like, and you look at this, and that's why I'm like, you look at this thing in clickbait where there was some trust issues in the past with the husband and the wife, just enough
Mm-hmm.
for her to see those videos and question, did he do this?
Right.
Could he possibly do this? He never showed any signs ever of being on the level of the type of person who would kill somebody. And she still was like, but because of all the other things that had broken the trust barrier between them, she had to pause. She paused to wonder if this was something that maybe he actually did, regardless of whether or not he gets killed. Like
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying she wanted that or not, but that pause is still going to happen. It's still going to happen. And it's just like, that's just the nagging doubt that goes into your head in the end. So you got to ask yourself, um like, you see stuff like that and you're like, okay, well, how much can I actually trust what I see and how much of it am I just projecting?
Trust is so fragile, right? Because it gets broken so quickly. It takes a long time to build up,
Hmm.
but it can be destroyed in just like a couple of like lines or a couple of like a quick couple of moments. It's quick. It's crazy how fast
Hmm.
trust goes, and we're seeing that now, right? With like just taking the vaccines as a larger example. We're like, look, if you don't trust the American government, then that's fine. Like a lot of people don't have a lot of faith or confidence in American government. That's fine, but you should have some sort of trust or some sort of confidence in like doctors and science and the medicine and the people who are doing all that kind of stuff, CDC, these kind of things. But once you don't have the trust
Yeah.
in both government and like science and medicine and doctors and stuff, then that really does leave you at the mercy of Reddit or whatever it is your source is. Like, you know what I mean? And it's
Hmm.
like I don't know what the American government did to erode that trust, and I don't know what the medical community did or science or whatever it may be, CDC or whatever, however you want to phrase it, did to erode that trust. But for a group of people, it's clear that trust is in those two institutions are clearly gone, right? And I don't
Yeah.
necessarily know like how you get that back. Like you obviously going to do mandates and things like that because that's the way you got to go. But mandates are not going to regain that trust. They're just going to enforce a bylaw.
Yeah. No. I think that um that is only going to make it worse too. It's like you don't trust the government, and it's like, and and everybody has all these conspiracy theories about like what the government's doing with these vaccines, and now all of a sudden, oh, now they're going to mandate it, so they really are trying to put, push microscopic tracking devices into all of us, and really, you got to ask yourself, what makes you think you're so special that the government gives a rat's ass about where you are at
Mm-hmm.
any given time? But they start pushing this stuff. Although I can tell you exactly why so many people have so much distrust for the medical community. It's because the medical community, like everything else in this country, has been turned into capitalistic in nature.
Yeah,
It's like they're trying to make money off people. It's like, people
off
getting
sick
these. I
people
mean, there
though.
are people who are coming out of COVID with, yeah,
Like
yeah,
you
they're trying to
you
make
have
money
no
off sick
value when you're
people, like
healthy.
people coming out of COVID with $1 million, $2 million bill. And so that's why they don't trust them. It's like you're just trying to make money off of us. That's it. Just making money off of people. That's all they're trying to do.
And I
And
get that.
so,
And I'm not saying that it's not legitimate.
yeah.
Like there is like there like
Oh yeah, no, no.
trust is not just like arbitrary. Like you know what I mean. You don't get married and then on your wedding day then like decide to just start trusting your husband or your wife or whatever it may be. Right. Like you said, there's little things along the way that kind of like chip away at it. So where it gets to the point where one of the days where he says, "I gotta work late today," or "I'm going out with the guys today," you're like your spider sense starts to tingle, right? You're like, "Are you really gonna work late today? Are you really going out with the guys?" Like you get to that point, right? And that's I think with some people, a lot of Americans. I guess well we're back to the vaccine thing, but like for them, we're like looking at the government and looking at the medical community. They're like after decade of lies and like capitalism and all these kind of things, they're like, I don't know if I can really trust you on this one now. This is a little bit too far.
Yeah. Hmm. That's a good point. That's a really good point. I'm dealing with it's funny because it's like I keep thinking back on like what we're talking about right now with this whole distrust thing, and I think about like all the ways like insurance companies, for example, screw people out here, and how they're just, you know, um, how they're doing whatever they can to not have to pay for something that you're paying them to take care of for you.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know if they have anything like this up where you are. Like we have our insurance providers, like renters insurance, homeowners insurance, like that, don't cover major natural disasters where you are. I mean, I think it's like it's happening state by state. Like in California, insurances don't cover earthquakes. You
Mm-hmm.
can't the earthquake insurance is not part of your homeowners or renters insurance policies. Here in New York, flooding is not part of it.
Because
And
flooding
you can
happens all
get
the
it through the
time.
government, but it's very weird how you can get it.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's like the things that they don't cover is kind of crazy. And so I don't know if they have anything like that in Canada, where it's like there's certain things that insurance doesn't cover or whatever. I don't know how any of that stuff works there. But it's interesting to me because I was like, okay, I have renters insurance for the purpose of if something happens within my apartment, it will be covered. Something that is outside of my control. There is a fire, there
Mm-hmm.
is what if somebody breaks in and steals stuff, whatever. Somebody gets hurt in the apartment, like that's all kinds of reasons that, all kinds of things that my renter's insurance covers. um control, but they don't cover flooding because they're like it's a slow thing. Like flash floods are not a slow thing,
Mm-hmm.
but they don't want to cover it because they don't want to pay out.
Mm-hmm.
And I get that. I get part of it has to do with like it would turn into a mass payout is what would happen, which could, but at the same time, I'm like, that's like one of the top things I have no control.
Mm-hmm.
California have no control over earthquakes. And so it's like, in these sensitive, people trying to make money off of stuff, and why you lose trust in these things, and why people don't want to trust you, and why people, when they think about you, it just makes them angry. And it's because of things like this. It's like you were supposed to be there for me,
Mm-hmm.
and you took that away. You took that away from me. And now it's like, it doesn't matter that I'm still with you. I still don't trust you. I don't trust that you're not going to take care of things the way I need you to take care of them. It's like, it's the same everywhere, and it all loops back to, you know, like the signs he held up in Clickbait. It's like, you're just going to assume, because there's so many things that people do, and so many ways that people can try and lose your trust. I'm like, I don't know him from Adam.
Mm-hmm.
If I was just one of the general people, I don't know this guy from Adam. There's no reason I have to believe one way or the other. So if I see this random person and he's holding up the sign, I'm just going to kind of believe it, because I already don't trust people in general.
Yeah.
So, and that contributed to it in the end.
And that was also like to kind of piggyback on what you're saying, like Zoe Kazan, she was pushing and pushing and pushing the police officer, Amari, like to investigate and to do these things.
Mm-hmm.
And like, if she hadn't pushed as hard as she did, he wouldn't have done some of the things he did, like to resolve it. Like, again, it's the trust issue. Like, one of the things in the first couple episodes that they kept saying, both her, Zoe, and the wife kept saying to the police officer, was like, "What are you doing? Are you finding my husband? Are you finding my brother? Like, what have you done now? You don't have any leads,
Mm-hmm.
right?" And it's like,
Mm-hmm.
that's again where like that trust is breaking down, because it's like, you're the police officer. You're supposed. Here's a crime. He obviously is like, he's bleeding in the video. He's holding up a sign. Something's wrong. Something's not right. But you guys are not moving fast enough to solve it or to do it, like to deal with it in an efficient manner.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So the trust is breaking
Yeah.
down between the group of people, like you said. Like, a doctor is supposed to help you, cure you, or fix you, or whatever. So if you come in with a broken leg, he's supposed to help you. He's not supposed to sit there and look at you and say, like, what insurance you have. I'm not sure if your insurance covers a broken leg or not, but if you had a broken arm, I could do it. You know what I mean? Like, there's none of that back and forth, and that's what was happening with the police department
Mm-hmm.
and Zoe Kazan.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Exactly. It's she doesn't trust them because they're not moving fast enough, and they may not be moving fast enough because they look at this guy and now no longer trust him, think that he's a bad guy. So it's like, and it's just a cycle. It just, like, it all compounds on top of everything else. I don't trust this person because they don't trust this, because they don't trust this, because they don't trust this. And then, because of this just like giant circle jerk of everything, real world consequences happen. Or you could even say, if you even wanted to add to that, you could sit there and say that the people who are watching the video don't trust the sign. They don't trust that the guy will actually be killed, so they don't think there's any consequences to watching the video.
Mm-hmm.
And so they do, because they don't trust that that will actually happen. They don't believe that that will actually happen, so they're going to watch it. Where it's, at the end of the day, it's like, no, it's going to happen, and it does. So it's just, it all compounds on top of itself that leads to the guy's death. you know it's like, because it's like, it's almost like a mishmash of mob mentality,
Yeah.
so to speak, I guess.
So should people trust us and watch Clickbait?
That is an excellent question. We did kind of give away some big stuff, although we didn't give away the biggest thing, is who is responsible for it.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like we've still got some of their trust. We haven't totally spoiled it. Yes, I think you should trust us, and I think you should watch it,
Mm-hmm.
because I don't usually binge that much in one sitting.
Mm-hmm.
It's worth it.
I also like that it was a mini series, so you just watch the 8 episodes and then you're done, right? Like, you go into this world
Yep.
for 8 episodes. You mentioned previously, like, The Haunting of Hill House, right? So you just watch this fractured family dealing with like PTSD from a haunted house, and then I think it was 10 episodes, and then you're done, right? I like those kind of
Hmm.
like little
Yeah.
mini series where, like, I don't mind like when obviously shows kind of keep going. There's like season 3, season 4, season 5, whatever. But it's also just nice to kind of just do a mini series, get involved in something, and then just leave. And that Clickbait is perfect for that. Like, it's a fun 8 episodes.
Yeah. It's we I don't know. I think you and I have had this conversation at some point. We're talking about why is it easier to watch a TV show than it is to watch a movie. I'm like, I could sit there 4 episodes of a TV show, which is like 3+ hours, but for some reason I don't want to turn a movie that's an hour and a half,
Mm-hmm.
because it feels like a longer investment. Well, it's the idea of like it's why the concept of Quibi like could have worked and why people thought that it would work. It's because you're getting stuff in like bite-sized pieces, stuff that you feel is manageable, that contributes to something overarching in the end. And that's why like what you're talking about, it's like why they're so great. Miniseries like these are, or I'm sorry, we don't call them miniseries anymore because that's the old school term, and we live in a new golden age of television, and they're called limited series.
Oh,
Um,
sure.
the I think the reason that so many people like thought like it works is because it's the same thing. It's like I'm not having to invest in 5 years of a TV show. I'm having to invest in 8 episodes of a TV show,
Mm-hmm.
and I can watch it in pieces. I don't have to sit and binge watch the entire thing in one sitting, as I have done. But there's lots of things that I can spend a few days going through, and I've binged it, and then when it's done, it's done. And I can finish my investment in that and move on to something else. So,
Yeah, I did it from a Friday to a Sunday. I kind of spread it out the episodes, but it was kind of like a nice tight, like, because that way you also let it breathe a little bit, and you're like, I wonder who's behind it. And then as more clues come out, I'm like, I didn't see that coming.
hmm that's why I kept turning, because you get to the end and I'm like, oh no, but I need to know what happens next.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm like, no, but it's funny. I'm like, I always I mentally laugh sometimes when I see these binge shows that actually have cliffhangers at the end of an episode. I'm like, okay, that's not really a cliffhanger because the next episode starts in like 2 seconds. But then I remember things like binge watching this entire thing in one night and go, that's why they have cliffhangers, so that you will start the next one because you want to know what happens.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next one, and then the next one. It's like that's how they suck you into all of it.
Mm-hmm.
And like it may not be a 3 month long cliffhanger, but it's still something that's going to drive you crazy until you watch the next one.
And what Clickbait did as well that was really effective, and each episode is named after the character, but they did each episode from a perspective of a different character. So there's like one episode is the wife,
Yes.
one is the brother, like one is the mistress, like all these different episodes, the son. So you get to see from how the story unfolds, but from each person's
Yeah.
like different perspective, and you also get a bit of background because again, like what we're saying with Clickbait is like any TV show and in life too, you meet somebody and then you make an impression of that person from like instantly, just seconds
Yeah.
is all it takes. And you could be right and you could be wrong about that impression, and sometimes those impressions never change. You're like, I don't like that person, I want to punch him in the face, right? Like that's how you go through life.
Yeah.
But once they kind of did these longer episodes and like from the perspective of like the reporter or from the wife or whatever it may be, then you start to see, you're like, all right,
hmm
so then you have to kind of adjust then your perspective of who this person is.
I would refresh my memory. Wasn't the title of the episode? Wasn't that the actual title of the episode's like the
Yeah,
sister, the wife?
the wife, yeah.
Okay. Okay.
And that's because that's
Okay. That's what I thought.
that's how we view them, right? Like that's why I said like the
hmm
wife. I know her name is Sophie Brewer as the character, but like
Yeah.
from our perspective, watching this whole thing, she's just the wife, right? She doesn't have. Again, this is a social media thing where like she doesn't have a value as a mom, as a
hmm
woman, as a black woman. None of these things. She's just the wife, right? And so like, there's lots of wives on TV, on social media, on YouTube, right? In life, there's wives everywhere. But in this case, she's just the wife, right? And then in this case, he's just the son. And in this case, he's just the victim.
Because they're inconsequential. Well, not the victim per se, but they're inconsequential. They're side stories. They're
Yeah.
this. They're no. They're side characters. They're
Mm-hmm.
side characters to this drama that people are part of. So it's like, I don't know if you're paying attention in the news right now. This whole Gabby Petito thing. This girl who disappeared, and she was on a camp. She was on a cross country trip all summer with her boyfriend, and then she like stopped responding at the end of August, and all of a sudden he shows up like thousands of miles away back home at his parents' house in Florida without her, and no one can find
Mm-mm.
her, and he won't talk. It's like a whole thing.
Mm-mm.
And but what's that?
And like he obviously
I'm
did it then.
hearing. Well, but now he's missing.
Mm-mm. All right.
So but the thing is like you're not really thinking about her parents and what they're going through. They're just the parents,
Yeah.
you know. They're just the parents. It's like you want to know what's going on with him and her because you think maybe did he do it? Maybe he did it. We think he did it. Why is he missing? Is he, did he run away and something bad happened, or did he, like what a lot of people might think is like, did he like disappear and go kill himself because maybe he's responsible for her death? It's like everybody wants to know these. They're wrapped up in the drama of these two people, and they're forgetting like, okay, she's got parents and a sister and all that, and they've just gotten news that she's gone.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like, but they're just this, you're, and that's what was interesting in Clickbait. It's like, yeah, it was just the mother, it was just the kids, but there, it, there are, they have to live with this. They have, this is their life that they now have to live with, the loss of whatever. And but they're so outside that nobody even really thinks about them, that even though it's going on.
Mm-hmm.
So
Which is,
I find that
yeah, that's a
yeah.
lack of empathy too, right? Where like, if it's not just like the wife and the son or whatever, like that's like if it's your dad, like you have empathy, like you could put yourself in that position where like, oh my gosh, if that was my dad or that was my wife or whatever, like I would feel bad, like. But that's gone because it's like, again, it's just because it's presented us in that social media setting. You start like rooting for like the dude, like let's get it to 5 million.
Yeah, that's all that matters to people. They're just and for some people they're probably excited about it because they be part of the drama,
Mm-hmm.
you know. So
All right. Well, we actually ended up talking about clickbait for a whole hour, so we probably should shut it down. But yeah, so do check it out. You don't have to take our word for it. You have Netflix yourself. You can check it out and see if you agree with us. Um, it's um, it's an Australian American production too, so we don't usually get a lot of those. But Netflix is really good at getting those international kind of flavor shows. And so yeah, Clickbait is now on Netflix. Thank you for hanging out with us on this episode of My Summer Lair Space Station Oddity. I've been Sammy.
hmm I have been Stephanie.
You don't have like a super
I'm
long
gonna go.
press of.
No, because as soon as we get off, I'm gonna go listen to some Linkin Park music that I can't turn on, because that's what my whole life is about. I'm just saying.
All right. On that note,
That's where we
then.
started, and that's where we're going.
All
And
right,
in the
we've gone
end,
full circle.
nothing really matters.
All right. Yes. So
All
yeah,
right,
we have reached the end, right? So I was a little bit
that's
worried,
right.
but thank you for hanging out. Peace out.
Have a good one. Peace out, everyone.